Today we're talking about 5 deleted horror scenes that were too disturbing to make the final cut. Some of these scenes had to be removed because of ratings, and some because they were just too disturbing for audiences. I've put duration markers in this video just in case you want to skip any you haven't seen, because they're kind of spoilers. Let's get into it. Some fans are split between the 2017 version of It and the original, but as much as I love Tim Curry, I can't deny that Bill Skarsgård pulled off maybe the best reimagining of a classic villain yet. The updated version of Pennywise had a completely different look and vibe and was totally terrifying. We constantly saw him drool over the children and their fears. I mean, why did he always look so moist? But believe it or not, it could have been much worse, as they scrapped one of the most disturbing scenes that is usually a no-no in horror. This information came to light when Bill Skarsgård shared on the Playback podcast that the initial version of the movie featured a disturbing, now deleted flashback. He said, quote, "There was a scene that we shot that was a flashback from the 1600s, before Pennywise was Pennywise. The scene turned out really, really disturbing. And I'm not the clown, I look more like myself." Fans immediately went on a hunt to find out what the scene could have been, and they're fairly certain after finding the original script that they now know what this deleted scene was. There was a scene where Pennywise in 1637 bargains with a woman named Abigail, and then, are you ready for it, eats her baby as she stands there in a trance, unaffected. And we hear, quote, bones crunching. There was someone called Abigail on the cast list, so people believe that this is the deleted scene that will never reach the light of day, likely because it was too horrific for audiences. Most horror films, not all, but most won't touch infant death unless it's a major plot point of the film. What do you think? Are you glad they cut this one? There's many aspects of Tobe Hooper's and Spielberg's 1982 Poltergeist that didn't quite make it to the final cut. The film's visual effects supervisor said that they did twice as many ghost scenes as those that appeared in the final cut. A portion of them can also be seen in the film's original theatrical trailer, but one would have changed the entire tone of the film. This is referred to as The Stain, which would have been a spine-chilling spectacle involving Diane being pulled up across the ceiling and down the other side. Imagine a strange, pulsating stain on the walls above her bed. This idea was brought to life with a latex bladder and some clever hands behind the scenes. Mike Wood, part of the effects crew, explains, "We created a big latex bladder for the stain with holes in the wall so we could move it manually. People outside the set helped to make it come alive. As the scene progressed, the stain was supposed to grow and Diane was to roll through it." It sounds cool, but this concept was actually incredibly daring. Diane was defying gravity in a way that suggested the unseen forces were sexually assaulting her, graphically. However, even though they have initial shots from this scene, it was too much for the film's intended rating and had to be dropped. What remains in the movie is a scene where JoBeth Williams, who played Diane, writhes in bed. This changes the stakes and would have really altered the way the film was received. It's crazy to know that this could have been such a controversial film, and instead the scene was scrapped, which of course helped with the PG rating. Scream, known for its slashing, underwent slashings of its own to secure a lower rating as well. The first time we saw this was within the US Laserdisc version, which had the director's cut resurrecting approximately 20 seconds of gripping footage. Within the commentary of the director Wes Craven and writer Kevin Williamson, this release unveils captivating disparities from the theatrical edition. Of course, this cut is a lot more accessible today, but the small changes do have a huge impact. These include the visceral demise of Steve, highlighting his organs falling out of his body, Casey's hanging scene, which is lengthened, prolonged Tatum's frenzied clash with the garage door, and even Kenny's fate receives a more visceral portrayal. And the last big change, spoiler alert, after Billy and Stuart finished stabbing each other, there's a shot of Stu's hand dripping blood into a puddle as Sydney's father looks on. The added moments were merely seconds, but they compel the viewer to engage in an unsettling observation enduring an extended duration, and the impact is strongly felt. so these were cut to achieve a lower rating, expanding the target audience. Cult classic remake John Carpenter's The Thing had so many intense scenes, but one was cut before even filming for what was believed to be budget reasons. The film is a chilling tale of survival and dread, but one character's fate remains shrouded in mystery. Knowles is a key figure who confronts an ambiguous end. While it's commonly theorized that he fell victim to the Thing, we never actually find out any details of his gruesome death. But it was not in the original plan. There was a gory, intense scene that was storyboarded but never filmed. The scene follows Macready, Gary, and Knowles as they plan to set explosives to destroy the station and stop the Thing from going into hibernation. The script depicts Knowles busting through the floor and being caught by the monster, screaming to Macready for help, while a giant worm-like tentacle moves through his body. Macready would watch on horrified as these small tentacles pop out of his mouth and a large tentacle finally breaks through his chest and jaw. It's believed that the budget and time constraints didn't allow this to come to fruition. No doubt it would have been a dramatic conclusion and possibly one of the most iconic and gory scenes in the film. I know there's a couple, but this sounds brutal. Renowned blockbuster Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg, is widely acclaimed for its perfect blend of horror and adventure. However, there was a significant scene left on the cutting room floor: the graphic demise of a man who saved Brody's son. The scene depicted the shark attacking a group of youngsters in a boat, with a man attempting to rescue them before becoming the shark's victim himself. This intense sequence is seen briefly in the behind-the-scenes footage from the 40th anniversary Blu-ray documentary, The Shark is Still Working. But it proved to be excessively violent and gruesome for the film's intended PG rating, which is why it was cut from the original film. The decision to exclude the visceral scene involving a man bleeding and a young child escaping from the shark's clutches was one to also preserve the film's tone. The director's intention was to infer the terror and focus on the bloody aftermath, putting the audience in the shoes of someone who caught a glimpse of the wreckage that they could have been involved in, believing the grisly details to run wild in their imagination. It would have affected the rating and really dialed up the disturbing factor. In this case, I think they did the right thing. The film would have landed in hot water, pun unintended, possibly being banned in more places during this time. But it's a pretty big flex they were able to film and scrapped an entire epic scene without taking away from the terror of the film and the waves it made in cinema, pun intended. Share in the comments a deleted scene that you know about in a horror movie and why you think it was deleted. I'd love to read it. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky.